To mark the 200th anniversary of the founding of the town of Greece, the Greece Historical Society presents a Bicentennial Snapshot. Each week we take a look at a particular aspect of Greece history. This week we consider the War of 1812 on the Greece shores of Lake Ontario. This is the first of three parts. President James Madison declared war on Great Britain on June 18, 1812. This is not a war that gets much notice in the history books, but it was an important one, and certainly the only one that was fought along the Greece shoreline. Men who fought in the War of 1812 are buried in our pioneer cemeteries, such as the Charlotte Cemetery and Falls Cemetery. Here is Samuel Latta's enlistment card for Atchison's regiment of the New York Militia. At the time of the War of 1812, there were settlements at Charlotte, Hanford's Landing, Ridge Road, Patty Hill, Braddock Bay, and Rochesterville. Total population was less than 500 people. At first, there was little support for the war in the Lake Ontario shoreline settlements. The causes of the war were not their grievances. They enjoyed a healthy trade relationship with their Canadian neighbors on the north shore of the lake, and it seemed so unlikely that the war would impact them. However, once British warships visited their shore and bombarded them with cannonballs, their attitude changed. They realized that the war could be at their doors any time the lake was navigable, especially at Charlotte. It was a site where provisions for the troops were stockpiled. The British made their first visit to the Genesee Harbor on October 1, 1812. While the HMS Royal George waited offshore, two boats carrying about 70 Marines came into the harbor and took two American vessels that were anchored there, a U.S. revenue cutter and the Lady Murray, a schooner belonging to William McKinstry. Erastus Spaulding, who operated the commercial hotel on the site near where Stutson Street and River Street meet today, kept the sails and rigging for the Lady Murray in his storehouse. The British returned the following day, October 2nd, to get the missing equipment. Seeing a barrel of whiskey in the storehouse, the British were about to confiscate it when Mr. Spaulding told them it was private property. He offered the sailors 2 gallons of the whiskey if they would leave the barrel intact. Nothing else was taken. The second engagement with the British occurred late in the afternoon of June 15, 1813, when a squadron of 8 British vessels under the command of Captain Sir James Yeo appeared at the mouth of the Genesee River. Yeo had learned of supplies for American troops being stored at Charlotte and sent 150 sailors and Marines ashore to seize them. The British confiscated 400 to 500 barrels of flour, pork, and a sloop belonging to Erastus Spaulding, laden with 1,200 bushels of corn, destined for soldiers on the Niagara frontier. Bushnell's clerk, George Latta, received a receipt for the salt, whiskey, and other provisions taken by the British. To prevent people from alerting the militia, the Marines stayed overnight in Charlotte. They rounded up the few inhabitants and locked them up in 1 or 2 buildings, a building owned by Frederick Bushnell and the Samuel Latta home. A couple of local men hiding out in the woods managed to escape detection by the British and alerted the militia under the command of Caleb Hopkins. The group of armed men gathered at the Steamboat Hotel at Hanford's Landing and marched down to Charlotte, only to arrive in time to see the British fleet sailing away. A few shots were fired, but no damage was done. Thanks for joining us this week. Next time we continue our coverage of the War of 1812 and its impact on Greece. This is Maureen Whalen, inviting you to join us next Tuesday for another Bicentennial Snapshot presented by the Greece Historical Society.
Want to learn more from the Greece Historical Society and Museum? Then click that subscribe button for more content and hit that bell icon to get notified when there's more Bicentennial Snapshots. You can visit us on the web at greecehistoricalsociety.org. You can find us on Facebook at Greece Historical Society. You can follow us on Twitter at GreeceNYHistory, and you can stop in at the Greece Historical Society at 595 Long Pond Road.